Without further ado, let me introduce Kelly, who's probably going to talk for 10, 15 minutes, whatever she wants, and then we'll open it up to questions. Are you okay?
Thank you, David. You know, David actually asked me to do a PowerPoint, and I said, absolutely not. When I worked for Harbor Freight, we had to do a PowerPoint for every single meeting, every single presentation. The owner expected a PowerPoint, even if it was for 5-minute conversation. So I'm PowerPointing out. I do live in Gillespie Park. I am the president of the Gillespie Park Neighborhood Association also, which is, you know, just down the street here. And our neighborhood association is very active. CCNA, for those of you that don't know about CCNA, the Coalition of City Neighborhood Associations, started over 30 years ago when 4 women would run into each other at City Hall all the time, going there to talk about something with city staff that their neighborhood needed resolved. And as they sat in the lobby waiting for whoever they were supposed to talk to, they found that they had a lot of the same concerns, and they decided to band together to help each other to get what they needed done with the city. And one of those women is Linda Holland, who has been the president of the Gillespie Park Neighborhood Association forever. And she spent 5 years trying to talk me into doing it, and I finally gave in. So I did that a year ago. But her and Molly Cardeman, who many of you probably know, were 2 of those 4 women that started CCNA. And today CCNA has 33 neighborhoods that are members of the 60-odd neighborhoods identified by the city. I'm currently working on what does that mean from a resident count standpoint? How much actual, and I'm going to use the word power, does CCNA really have with the city? So that's something we're working on right now. There's so many people involved in CCNA that are so talented to make things happen and get things done that I was really excited to be asked to be the president of CCNA. One of the things that we work on is initiatives, and we have actually 5 stated initiatives at CCNA, 4 of which we are actively working on. And one of the things I learned a long time ago in working in corporate America is you can have 15 great ideas, but if you try to do all 15 at one time, you're going to do a crummy job on all 15. So pick 3 and knock them out of the park. So that's the focus that we have at CCNA. And one of the other things that, as a member of CCNA for the last 2 years, I would always ask the question, well, whatever happened to the answer to the question that somebody asked at a meeting? So my commitment to the membership is, if there's a question left unanswered, we're bringing it back. It's not going to be forgotten. Your answer is going to be found out, and we're going to tell you the answer you're looking for. So we're working on that. One of our first initiatives we're working on is as it relates to code compliance, specifically noise control and vacation rental control. Those are the 2 key focuses. And within that initiative, we have a committee. Each initiative has a committee with a chair. And vacation rental control, as you may or may not know, went to the mainland a year ago by pushing and pushing and pushing to get that. And right now, the city is trying to get people that have been, there's 700 known addresses that have been identified as vacation rentals through the software program that the city has. And it has been slow going to get the owners to register their vacation rentals. So right now what CCNA is doing is reaching out to the city to say, how can we help? What can we do to help make it happen? Speaking for Gillespie Park, somehow, some way, the ordinance got written, and Gillespie Park as a downtown neighborhood, edge neighborhood, got left out. We have 60 vacation rentals. 10% of that, the houses in our neighborhood are vacation rentals right now, and it keeps growing. So we're working to get Gillespie Park, Park East added to that. Rosemary District actually wouldn't be included either, even though it's mostly condos. So that's one thing. And then noise control. I don't know if any of you were at the city commission meeting when they were talking just a few weeks ago. I don't know that we accomplished a whole lot, but I'm holding out hope that something is going to happen, something's going to change. You know, it's a double-edged sword, because when you live downtown, there is noise. There's going to be noise. But at what point should the noise stop? At what point should the noise get quieter? Is really key, you know. And then when you go into neighborhoods, you've got the same problem, only this time it's barking dogs. And you've got people that in a vacation rental bring their dogs, leave the dog outside of the yard, leave all day, and that dog barks the entire time. So there's a different set of noise control problems when you get out into the neighborhoods. So trying to find that and understand what the different problems are for all the neighborhoods, whether it's a condo, whether it's single family homes, whether it's multifamily homes, understanding how each of the different problems align and how we can go about solving them with the city is what we're focused on. The second thing we're focused on is health and safety specifically traffic calming and pedestrian safety and bicycle safety. I don't know if you've seen it yet, but there is going to be a town hall with the city on February 19th around the new traffic calming solutions that they're going to roll out. That was the presentation at last Saturday's CCNA meeting. There's a committee that's been working on that for 2 years with the city. One of the things that, for me, coming from corporate America, is so difficult working for the city, to be perfectly honest, is it takes forever to get anything done. You know, and you've got somebody that's got to ask somebody, and somebody else, you know, not any one of you know, when you come from corporate or you own your own business, you decide and you move on. That's not how it works in the government, unfortunately. So we've been working for 2 years with traffic calming, and it's now being rolled out where it used to be 70% of the people that asked for some type of traffic calming, whether it's speed tables or speed signs on the street, 70% of the people were told no, they didn't qualify. With the new program that's being rolled out, and the committee, some of you may know some of the people that were on the committee: Norm Dumaine, Lou Costa, Mary Butler, Richard Harris. They worked really hard with Nick Patel and his staff to make these changes, and it was a long time coming, and what they accomplished is completely changing things around. So now you're going to get something. You're not going to get, you may not get the full treatment, but you're going to get something if there's a speeding problem on your street, which wasn't the way it was in the past. So that's exciting. The next thing they're going to bite off is crosswalks and how to get more crosswalks and crosswalk safety. That's the next project that the committee is going to work on with the city. So that is a committee that is really, really important. The next one I know you guys work on a lot in DSCA, and is very important to you, and that is meaningful development input. When a new development is coming on the edge of a neighborhood or in downtown, how is that going to affect the developments that are already there? How is it going to affect the single family homes that are there? The city just announced the Development Review Committee is going to be completely rebuilt, and they have a group of people that are going to be working with them to help from a neighborhood standpoint to give input. I'll be on that committee as well as several other people in CCNA. And one of the things that we do in my neighborhood in Gillespie Park, because all of our development at this point is single family home, but we are on the neighborhood edge, so we're in the corridors. The corridors surround us on 3 sides, so development is going to be a huge issue for our neighborhood. And one of the things that we do is we track every single permit that's put out in our borders, and we watch to see what's happening. We put out the information to all the neighbors. Everybody knows when something's coming new. I have 6 new houses being built on my street right now, and it's only 4 blocks long, the street that I live on in Gillespie Park. So one builder told me the other day when I was asking him if he could move a board because you can't see to make the turn, it's not safe if you're in a sedan. He said, well, the inspector's coming today and the guy is up my butt in Gillespie Park. So I know what we're doing is working. So how do we take what we're doing and educate other neighborhoods is one of the things that we'll be working on. How do we help? You know, it shouldn't be a developer against communities. It should be, how do we work together with developers to build a community that we're all happy to live next door to? I know that some people will be like, oh yeah, that's a pipe dream. But I think you have to have a place to start if you're gonna go somewhere. So one of the aspects we're working on is compatibility. Compatibility is in the zoning ordinances today, but it's not looked at because it's not something that can be clearly defined and graded. So one of the things that we're working on very closely with Steve Cover and his team is, what does compatibility mean and how does that then get incorporated into the process before it goes to the planning board? And frankly, the other piece of the puzzle is, how do we get development built inside what the zoning code already is? For example, we just had, the Miramar project. They're asking to be rezoned as Bayfront, not downtown core. We just jumped over Fruitville Road with downtown core into what was downtown neighborhood edge. So how is that going to affect us down the road when you set a precedent to say it's okay here, and then you come into a new neighborhood and like, we don't want that. So how do we make sure that the city staff understands and the commissioners understand that it may look good in your theory, in your head, but in actual life, it doesn't work. Indian Beach Sapphire Shores right now has a new development that's been built. Yes, now they look at 200 feet of plastic fence. There's no plantings, there's no nothing. So how do we find compatibility into the neighborhoods? That's a huge piece for us. Another initiative that we're working on is parks, protection of our parks. I'm sure all of you know about the issue with Ken Thompson Park last year, where they wanted to build a fairy tale of fun, it's the only way I can call it, out on Ken Thompson Park. And we as CCNA said, you know what? We need to look at all the parks. How are they zoned today? How should they be zoned? So that initiative just kicked off, and we're working with the city. First, be careful what you ask for, right? Because we may ask for something that we ultimately don't like later. Understand what the rules are now, understand what the rules mean, and then define what we think is the right thing to do to make sure that we're protecting our parks so that that land is never sold off, never made into an amusement park. And then the next step of that is, okay, now we've done that, whatever changes are going to be made, is there city-owned property today that is sitting there empty that could be made into a park? And how do we approach that? So that's part B of the Parks Initiative. First, how do we make sure we're protecting what we have? And second, how do we get more parks in our city? And they don't have to be 10-acre parks like Gillespie Park. They don't have to be the Bay. They could be small little pocket parks like Laurel Park has. Someplace that there's green for people to go and sit and enjoy the outside. The last piece we're working on is actually, so many people don't know, never heard of CCNA. Who are they? What do they do? And there's so many things that CCNA does that are important to the city that we decided last year that we need a PR campaign to let people know who we are and let people know that our members, when you have a problem and you need help, reach out, because somebody else may know how to solve that problem. Before I was the president, I was the District 1 representative. And what I did was went to every single neighborhood meeting in District 1 to learn from them who they were, what their problems were, you know, the concrete crushing and US recycling. I didn't know anything about that until I went and learned about it at Central Coconut. And how do you find those commonalities to be able to work together to go to the city to say, hey, here's an issue, we need to solve it. How can we go about solving it? Or it could be as simple as it's a brand new neighborhood association that doesn't really know how to do anything and they don't have bylaws and they want some help creating bylaws. So those are some of the things that I learned as a District 1 rep. I'm like, oh wow, this is interesting, because I've only been in Sarasota since 2017 as a full-time resident. So those are the things we're working on. It'll take us 2 years easy to get through the stuff we're working on, and then new things will come up. What I would like to ask you is, David and I met, he went through the priorities, you know, like for example, the sidewalks. You have the sidewalk expansion on 6th Boulevard of the Arts side, Boulevard of the Arts and 10th Street, whereas other neighborhoods, Gillespie Park included, have no sidewalks at all, or the sidewalks are completely disjointed, and Indian Beach, Sapphire Shore is a perfect example of that. They don't even have sidewalks. How do we identify and prioritize the dollars that the city has so that everybody gets something? And everybody understands that we recognize everyone has something that they want, but I would rather have Indian Beach, Sapphire Shores get some sidewalks than to finish the sidewalks in Gillespie Park from a priority standpoint. So I would like to know from you all, what do you think are the most important things that CCNA, that I didn't talk about, that CCNA should be maybe thinking about? And how big of a priority is it for you?
Let's pass it on. Who would like to go first? Jamie?
Yeah, I just have a question. What are you guys' thoughts on, I don't think I need this, on the new Performing Arts Center?
You know, it's funny, our March meeting, our guest speakers are going to be Tanya and Bill, and also Lori Muldowney and Ron Cashton from the Sarasota Alliance for Historic Preservation to talk about the Van Wezel. Each of them are going to give a presentation, and then everyone's going to have an opportunity to ask questions. So we can, because we always have at least 3 commissioners at our meeting, and it's going to be on the commissioner's agenda in March, the SPAC. So I thought, what an ideal time to have them come and talk so they can hear what people have to say without being in chambers and without having to respond to anything. So we're going to find out what people think, what questions they ask in March. I've seen the presentation at a couple of different places, so I love culture and musicals and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, for me, I can see it, but I can also see why other people say we don't need it.
Okay, others? Yeah, Peter.
Well, thank you for being here. That was a great presentation. We also have an issue around that bleeds off into the city outside of our neighborhood, and it involves transportation. And I think that we could cooperate significantly in the area of transportation in increasing the availability and the utilization, increasing frequency, those kinds of things. I think would be an issue that each of us could cooperate with one another on with the other. Understanding that occasionally between our 2 organizations, there'll be a little dynamic tension occasionally as to we want to go one direction, we want to go in another direction. And I think we need to make sure that that doesn't become anything more than a little dynamic.
Oh gosh, I wouldn't think so. You know, people have good ideas all the time, and understanding that maybe, although your idea is really good, it's not the first priority right now, but if something else comes from your good idea and we all win, then that's a gain. And by the way, you led that homeless solutions.
Yes.
I was there that night, and that got very animated,
Right.
and I thought you handled it very, very well. And I actually have reached out to Brenda Downing. She's going to be our guest speaker at our neighborhood meeting next month. So I think transportation is huge. I try to never use my car. If I can walk, ride my bicycle, ride my scooter, that's the way I'm going to go. And I've come from living in big cities where I didn't need a car. You know, I love going to a city where I can just use mass transportation everywhere I go. There's some way we can get a little closer to that. It would be awesome. We were talking about trains with a friend of mine yesterday. How I lived in China. You took the train everywhere. And America is very car-centric, so we just have to figure out a way, you know, like parking in the Rosemary District is a perfect example. Blue's Ice House. how to solve for that, because, I'm fortunate, because I can just walk over to the Rosemary District, but if they really want to really thrive in those restaurants and what they have going, we need to solve the transportation problem to get to Rosemary.
I've got something.
You did it.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh.
Peter.
Hi, thank you for that. Is this on? Okay. Anywho, so I have some concerns about the city's economic development. We're very concentrated in terms of tourism, rich retirees, condo development. But on the other hand, we've had 3 hurricanes in the last season. St. Armand's is somewhat depressed. We're unprepared for these storms. There was a door to the kitchen in the Van Wezel that's below grade level that was totally unprotected. I mean, and it was the source of most of the damages. So the city is very complacent. They just think the good times will roll. They seem oblivious to the fact that we're in a hurricane zone. And we just have one economic driver, which is the sunshine, which creates tourism and retirees. And I don't know if this is within your purview, but that's something I'm concerned about.
As it relates to hurricanes, for those of you that may or may not know this, the county is responsible for storm water, maintaining the storm water, and they are right now speaking with the city to give it back and to end that agreement for the city to build their own department, which will cost millions and millions of dollars. And, I don't know where that money's gonna come from. I don't know where the money will come from that they need to do
Did
this
we
back.
ask for it back, or?
I don't think we asked for it back. They had a stormwater workshop at the county a few weeks ago. I think it was the 21st, January 21st, that I went to, and we're gonna have a stormwater presentation actually at CCNA in April, our April presentation. And they talked about all the different aspects of what they needed to do and what they needed to change in order to better serve the county. They didn't talk about the city at all. In an hour and a half, they didn't talk about the city. They only talked about east of 75 and South County, the things they needed to do, which to me was very much a bell ringing. It's like, hello, I think they already decided that we're out. And so I don't know, because, I thought about this too. It's like, well, if we have to spend millions of dollars on this, where's the money going to come from? Number one. And number two, what are we not going to do in order to build that up? Gillespie Park alone has a capital improvement project with the county that's been sitting there for years. We have houses that flood. Every single time we have heavy rain, there are 6 houses on 8th Street that flood because the level of service is not where it should be to keep that stormwater out.
Kelly, one question on parks.
Yes.
The Parks and Rec master plan was done roughly 7 years ago. And I know firsthand from being at the prep meeting, I think maybe you were there, that Jerry Fogel was in the process of updating that, so to speak. And I think one of the things you mentioned in your remarks is more parks or micro parks or whatever. And I think one pocket parks, even smaller than the new Rosemary Park, if you need it. And I think one of the, we would like to work with CCNA on, when Jerry's updating that it is a refresh more than something superficial. Since that park master plan, we've had 3 times the population growth maybe that was anticipated. And the park impact fee fund is one of the, dare I say, sore points of some folks downtown, is that a given building might generate $500,000 in park impact fees, but the city deems that money can be spent citywide. Now, I kind of get the greater good argument, but would it be fair that there's a nexus test for a third of that money, or something, that there's some reasonableness test on where the demand for people is coming from, that there may be a micro opportunity. I don't want to get into details now, but I think it's a real opportunity for CCNA and DSCA and the other neighborhoods. When Jerry's doing this update, it be something more than, a half an hour exercise.
Yeah, because it was on the last prep board agenda, there was gonna be a master plan update, and I went to the meeting just for that, only to find out that it was just a holding place in case Jerry was ready, and I'm like, seriously? Seriously? So, I have every intention of being at the next prep board meeting. What I will do is find out from Jerry, is his plan to present an update, or is his plan to present where are we today? What is he going to present? Because the prep board changed their meeting time to 4 o'clock, which is at the same exact time as the CCNA board meeting. So we're gonna have to shuffle around in order to be able to go to that prep board meeting. And I already told him we wanted to be there. So I don't know what he has planned at this point.
Kelly, it's Patrick Gannon. I have a question. First of all, thank you again for stepping up in your leadership position. I know it's always tough recruiting people, whether at the neighborhood level or certainly CCNA. Two things you mentioned I'd like to follow up on is the meaningful neighborhood input, you call it development input, which is great, in the DRC process. But given that a significant majority of development is happening in downtown, the DSCA area, who on DSCA is on your committee?
Well, that is a great question, and we are looking for new people to serve on that committee right now. And if one of you sitting here would like to raise your hand, I'd be happy to write your name down. Jim? Yeah, I'm looking right at you.
Well, I understand that with our zoning committee.
So we're looking for
okay.
people to serve, and we need somebody from downtown to serve on that committee. There's different dynamics for people that already live downtown compared to people that live in a single family residential neighborhood that's looking at what's going to happen in the corridors. There's a lot that can be learned, a lot that can be shared, and I think it's a fantastic question.
A
Thank
key
you for
part of
asking.
that is the fact that so much of what happens downtown involves more than just the DRC process. If you take it all the way through completion, that once it goes past the DRC or the planning board, it's almost untransparent, hidden in terms of trying to find documents and road closures, et cetera. That's a key part of it. The other thing you mentioned was parks and then safety. As you mentioned during Peter Penning's the homelessness workshop we did, the question about parks and safety in the parks. We've seen downtown a lessening of benches in our parks. Selby 5 Points Park used to have 10 benches.
Yes.
And they've been removed for homeless control. And so more people need more spaces, more benches in a shaded park. So that's something that citywide, but affecting downtown where there's more growth, there should be some percentage-wise, benches per population sort of concept around the amenities and staffing that, and making it safe. People don't talk to the condos, don't feel safe going and sitting there in the parks. And so what can be done with lighting, with cameras, somehow Bay Park has made it safe. And so you have cameras, SPD's got ways to look at all that. So that's one of the things in terms of working with SPD, homeless outreach teams, and Jerry Fogel in the parks to have safe access for all people, vagrants or whoever's coming through there, but safely.
So, Gillespie Park has a lot of homeless people come through every day, sit on the benches all day. So I know exactly what you're saying. I've never felt unsafe though. Ever since we got the pavilion taken down and the drugs stopped, that completely changed that part. I wasn't aware they'd taken the benches out of 5 Points until I was at your homeless solutions, and I'm like, they took the benches out again? So it's like they take them out, they put them in, they take them out, they put them in. I know that there was someone on the prep board advocating to take all the benches out of all the parks. That got shut down, just so you know.
I have is the problem people lying on the benches or just sitting on the bench?
In Gillespie Park or everywhere?
Well, the homeless, what is,
Yeah, I don't know what benches got taken out of.
no, I mean, what is the concern? Is it that homeless people are lying down and sleeping on the benches?
Just a clear.
There's a multitude of concerns, Peter.
Okay,
A lot of it is they pile all their belongings on the bench, and leave it there all day.
I got it.
And so now we have provisions where it's help us out with that. We put dividers, some of the benches.
Right, I
so
was
you
just gonna say, you
can't
can
lie
have
on them.
dividers so you can't sleep on the bench. I mean, there are ways to
Right.
So
make
there's
it
a
less.
multitude of problems when you start talking about benches. You go to Paul Block Park, and they took all the tables up. Well, and they left some of the swings in, but the chairs and the tables where you could sit down and have lunch and have a cup of coffee, they're all gone. Because the element, the undesirable element in the eyes of some people shouldn't
Right.
have that permission to use what the rest of us
Right.
use.
Last question, anybody, Bob?
I just basically have a question for you as far as, a lot of things that seem to be happening now have this sort of a difference between the city and the county divide. The stormwater thing's a great example. The performing arts is another great example of that, where the city's gung-ho and the county's dragging their feet. I don't know what the county thinks we should do. I guess we should build a dam at the city limits to keep the
Right,
water
because all the
out,
water
because
comes
the
this
water
way.
doesn't come from, farther east. So, things of that nature. But do you see any solution to that or
First, can you tell me your name?
Bob Fur?
I thought that was you. We were at the voting thing.
Yeah,
You had a hat on, so.
I did have.
So your question is, do I see a way for the city and the county to be less on the antagonistic? Thank you. Is that your question? Is there a
Well,
way?
yeah, I don't know what can foster cooperation, so it's not a them versus us scenario so often.
Well, I think I just recently got this information from someone in the city. There are groups in the county that we can join to learn more about what are the aspects of the issues cross-county to try to work together. So my thought process was, why don't I go learn more about it outside of my own city as to what different people care about across the county? Because I think that it's easy for the city and the county to pit against each other because the residents aren't speaking up for what they want.
We're gonna have to wrap it up with one final positive comment. There is a joint city-county commission meeting now scheduled for March 24th. My understanding, there has not been one for 4 years plus.
Yeah, they've been trying to do it for a while.
Yeah, so there's 4 agenda items. I don't know what they are. I assume stormwater might be on it.
I would guess,
transportation.
yeah.
So, Kelly, I would really like to, you've really hit it out of the park as far as what you've done, comment and question wise. So I think it's a really helpful dialogue and we appreciate it. And
Thank you.
please stay on as you would wish, and there is wine at the end of the meeting. Oh, okay.